Hi everybody, it is Mr. Alas. I am going to talk to you today, or in this video, about how to break down an informational prompt in Writable and how to start my essay using Writable. So I've logged into Writable as a student, and this is a student account. This is my student account, right? The assignment that's due at the end of this week, so today's May 5th, and this assignment is due by the end of this week, so by Sunday night. This assignment is Informational Poetry, Mother to Son. Okay, so let's analyze this together. For you to start, click on, of course, the assignment, and then click on Read and Write. You'll have your text, your passage on the left, and then you'll have your prompt on the right. So now, when you first sit down at your writing test, the first thing you do is what? Deconstruct or take apart your prompt. Here's your prompt. Okay, now I can't highlight on here. So what I've done is put things on a Google Doc. Now I'm going to go over examples of prompts and how to respond to prompts on actual map test or an actual state test. So that will be coming next week. But for now, let's pretend that we can circle these items, right? We're going to deconstruct the prompt. We're going to follow the 3 steps of deconstructing or taking apart a prompt. And let's just pretend that circling, anything that I'm circling is highlighted yellow, okay? So the first step is what? We read the prompt at least 2 times. So now I've read this prompt at least 2 times. Read it more if you need to. Then the second step is to annotate. Annotate is broken up into 2 specific actions. The first one is to circle the verbs. How I would do that is literally go from sentence to sentence. First sentence. What verbs do I see? Now, so there's going to be different types of verbs, and the verbs that you are looking for, the verbs that you want to circle, are the ones that tell you to do something or that you have done something. Okay, so I'm going to start with red. Let's circle that in yellow. And I will choose that. Okay, so right now I have a question on this word. So remember, we're reading the prompt first before we read the text. So when you're reading the prompt before you read the text or the passage, is this word right here, R-E-A-D, is it present tense or past tense? It's a tricky question because I feel like everyone will say it's past tense because, see, that's correct. That's how you would read it, right? You have read Langston Hughes' poem. But in this case, because you are reading this prompt before you read the text passage, I think of this word in present tense. And I will explain why in a second. Okay, do I see another verb in this sentence that is telling me to do something? No, there's the verb speaking, but that is describing the mother speaking to her son. It's not speaking, this verb is not telling me to do anything. Next sentence. What verbs do I see that tell me to do something? I'll start with explain. Looking for verbs. I'm not going to circle develop. Okay, develop. It's not telling me to develop something. Develop here is actually part of this bit. How the primary literary device of a metaphor helps to develop a theme. Okay, that's a what. That's something that I would underline, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm going to keep looking for verbs. Be sure to use. I will take use as a verb. All right. And then I will use or click on support, because that is telling me to do something specific. Here's one tip with verbs. It almost always works if you add the word to in front of a word that you think is a verb. If you put to and that word that you think is a verb together, and what comes out makes sense, then it is probably a verb. For example, to read. That makes sense. That is a verb. To explain. That is a verb. That makes sense. To metaphor. That is not making sense, so that is probably not a verb. To literary. That doesn't make sense. To mother. Well, that's tricky. That can be a verb. All right, so that was a bad example. I'm sorry. Let's say to poem. That doesn't sound right, so that's not a verb. But let's go down to use. That makes sense, so that's a verb. And lastly, to support. That sounds right, so it will probably be a verb. So remember, a trick is to just add the word to, in front of a word that you think is a verb, and if it makes sense, it probably is a verb. Now, the second step of annotating, right? So annotating is 2 steps, or 2 small steps inside it. Circle the verbs. After that, you underline the what's, right? The verbs tell you what to do. No, the verbs tell you to do something. The what's tell you what you have to do. So how I do this is I go to the verb, I start at the beginning, and I see what things in that sentence can I pair with this verb that I think is important. All right? It's a fine line because you want to make sure that you're circling and underlining the right things, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're not over circling, that you're over highlighting, because if you over anything on a prompt, it's going to be very difficult to read the prompt, and the most important details are lost. So you have to be careful. And a lot of it is personal choice. So here we go. Read is the verb. What am I going to pair with the verb that makes sense? What in this sentence tells me anything related to the word read or read? So since this is still present, since I haven't read the text yet, I'm going to read Langston Hughes' poem, Mother to Son. I'm going to underline poem, okay? I'm going to, instead of underlining all of this, right? Langston Hughes is the author, Mother to Son is the title of the poem. I'm just going to underline poem. Poem is important to me because this tells me that what I'm about to read is a poem. A poem is fiction almost always. It is a narrative. Right? It's a story. It's just formatted in a unique way that makes it a poem. But it's a story. It's a narrative. Narrative is another word for story. So that tells me that the text that I'm going to read is a narrative text. It's a fictional text. And it's a fictional text in the form of a poem. And that's why I highlighted poem. Now, it's right in between Langston Hughes and Mother to Son. So it's clear to me that, for me personally, I can see that the author is right next to the word poem, and I can see that the title is right next to the word poem. So this word is surrounded by important details too. I just don't need, personally, to highlight or to underline everything. Anything else from the first sentence that is important? That is a what that is important, okay? That I can pair up with the verb to read. Personally, I would underline mother speaking to her son. I would underline that because that allows me to make an inference about the possible point of view in this poem. So my inference from seeing and underlining this is that it's going to be, well, it says that it's going to be a mother speaking to her son. So when it's someone speaking to someone, it would probably be in the first person point of view, right? So it's the mother saying things like, I love you, my son. I think you've grown so much. I want to teach you these lessons. So you will hear the first person point of view pronouns like I, me, we, and us. So that is why I underlined this section, because it gives me a chance to inference the point of view. Now, skipping to explain. What can I match up with explain? This is a doozy, right? I might not know fully what this sentence means, but I will underline how. Okay, so, that tells me what I have to explain, or one part of what I have to explain. So it could say something else, like explain what, and then I would underline what. But this one says how. So we're going to explain how something is the way it is. And in this case, how the literary device of a metaphor, underline, helps to develop a theme in the poem. So how the literary device of a metaphor helps to develop a theme in the poem. All right? So you should know at this point what a metaphor is and what a theme is. But even if you forgot or you didn't know, just make your best guess, all right? It's important to know what word we need to underline, like if it's a what, a how, a when, or a why, what are we explaining? And then just kind of take your best guess as to what you will be explaining. So in this case, it's talking about a primary literary device. And they're calling that literary device a metaphor. All right, so yeah, I might not know what metaphor is, but I know that this is the literary device that they want me to talk about, and specifically how it helps do this, develop a theme in the poem. Next sentence, what am I going to use? What will I pair up with use? I will pair reasoning and key details, right? The verb to use usually comes with things like use details or use supporting evidence or use explanations or references that you find in the text, blah, blah, blah. From the poem, all right? I don't need to underline that. I know that. You underline it if you want, but remember, don't over-underline, and don't over-circle. To support is the last verb. What am I going to support? I'm going to support my analysis. That word is important, right? So hopefully you will know what analysis means. If you don't know, you should try thinking of words that sound close to it, okay? The word that comes to mind is analyze. All right, so when you're analyzing something, you're kind of investigating it and taking it apart and seeing how it works. So an analysis is just something that you analyzed, that you took apart and put together again to see how it worked, right? This word is a very important word, and that is because it is the signal for you to know at this point that this entire prompt, is an informational prompt. Just from this one word, you know that this is an informational prompt. So this colors the way you respond. It's not a narrative prompt, right? So you are not writing a story. There's nothing in here about stories or narratives or continuing a story or retelling the story or doing something in a different point of view or from a different character's voice. No, it's not a narrative. There's nothing here that points to a narrative. So I'm not going to be making things up. There's nothing here that shows that it's an argumentative prompt, right? There's nothing that asks me for my opinion or what do I think about this? How do you feel, right? I don't have to write about my opinion and defend my opinion and try to convince someone. That's the purpose of an argumentative prompt. You're trying to convince someone. You're sharing your argument, you're backing it up, and you're trying to persuade someone to believe you. This is an informational prompt, and that keyword is analysis. The other keyword is explain. Okay? You're explaining something in your analysis. So the language that you choose when you're writing your response to the prompt has to be specific, right? It's got to be an informational style and not casual, and definitely not you making up a story or making a summary or a biography. You're explaining something. Remember, the role of informational prompt is to give information. Okay, and you're doing that by explaining how something blah, blah, blah. Now, tricky prompt, right? However, this is an informational prompt. The text itself is not informational, right? If you remember, I said that you're about to read Langston Hughes' poem, Mother to Son. I underlined the word poem because that tells me that I'm about to read a narrative, a made-up story in the form of a poem. Here's the author, there's the title. Okay, so don't get caught up in the fact that just because you're reading a narrative text, it doesn't mean that that the prompt that you have after is a narrative prompt. In this case, it's a narrative text, but it's an informational prompt. This is why it's so important to look for the verbs and to look for the what's, right? It takes a long time for me to tell you this because I'm explaining everything. But if you find this document in Google Classroom, it's, where is it? It's right here under writing prompt videos under 0503 with a purple heart, extra credit T-chart practice, right? It is this document. You have 9 examples and you have the steps to deconstruct your prompt right here under the pink. And also the link to the video if you wanted to watch that video. So, practice. Practice it a few times. Get confident in memorizing the steps to deconstructing a prompt. And practice writing your T-charts on a piece of paper. And by the test, you should be able to deconstruct a prompt in 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. Okay? So now we've deconstructed a prompt. No, we haven't fully. We've read the prompt. This is the first step. We've annotated the prompt. This is the second step. And now the third step is to make a T-chart. So let's pretend this is a piece of paper. Here is your T. Okay, so I'm not using my mouse. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to try writing with my touchpad. So here we go. On the top of the left, you will have the word verb. Verbs. You could also use the word do, right? Because verbs tell you to do something. This is handwritten. I'm cheating right now. And on the right, I hope you remember what we put on the right. We put the word what's, the things that we pair up with the verbs. So let's go back to our annotated prompt. We have the verbs read, explain, use, support. Read, explain, use, support. There we go. Verbs, the things that tell me to do something. Now, one sec. Now, let's find the what's. So what we have to do with the verb. So going back to annotation, what did we underline? Poem, mother speaking to her son. So I'm just going to put that much information. I don't need to overload this. I'm not writing full sentences. This is just brainstorming. This is just a tool. So I'm going to put read a poem, and what was it? Of mother speaking to her son. Remember, I think that's important, the mother speaking to her son, because it gives you point of view. What do I have to explain? What's next to explain? Okay, how the literary device of a metaphor helps to develop a theme. So how literary device of metaphor helps develop theme in the poem. What do I have to use? Reasoning and key details. And what do I have to support? My analysis. Again, the word analysis tells me this is an informational text. All right, so there's your T-chart. Very easy to make if you have memorized the steps and you have practiced it a few times. Now let me undo this formatting so someone else can do this practice on their own. Almost done, y'all. Thanks for sticking with me. Okay, again, in this T-chart practice document, you have your steps to how to deconstruct. You have the steps to deconstruct a prompt. Now we've made it to make a T-chart. If we've done third step, once we have our T-chart, this is what we do. That's when we read the text passage, right? And annotate it. I believe the program that you're going to be using for the state test will allow you to annotate, and I will make sure to give you that example and show it to you. So read and annotate your text passage. Do it a few times. Take notes. Make sure you understand it. Okay, once you've understand it, write your response to the prompt. Okay, because you've read the text, the passage now. You've also deconstructed the prompt. So now you write your response to the prompt using your T-chart. Okay? You're going to literally have this next to you and check things off as you do them. So let's get the color red. So, did I read a poem, and did I recognize that it was a mother speaking to her son? Yes. Okay, did I explain? Did I use? Did I support? Okay, let's pretend that we just read the text, and now we're going to read or to write our response using the T-chart. So here it is. Again, you can put the T-chart here, but I really do recommend practicing it on a piece of paper. So now we've read the text and we think we understand it. And now I'm going to start something. I'm going to revise. Well, let's pretend this is my first draft. Okay. So, check marks. Did I read that poem? Was it a mother speaking to her son? Yes. I have to explain how literary device of metaphor helps develop theme in the poem. Lord, I have no clue how to start that. Click on the blue thing. Look at your response, right? So I would start here because at least, even if I don't have a clue what I have to explain or how I'm going to explain it, I can start by setting up the skeleton or the outline of my response. So here's an intro. Here's my body. A reminder to use transitions and use language specific to topic, audience, and purpose. Number 5, style, develop response appropriate for intended audience. Okay, you have to think, who are you writing for? Are you writing for children? Are you writing for adults? Remember, it's an informational text, but you know, all informational texts don't apply to every single person in the world, right? There's different audiences. So who's your audience? And last but not least, so I'm gonna put my reminders at the bottom, and under body, I'm gonna put my conclusion, right? So at least now I've started the skeleton or the outline of this response. Go back to my T-chart. Explain. Use reasoning and key details and support myself. Okay? I'm also using the rubric. Remember, the rubric won't be available to you, so practice this so you know what kind of things to put, right? So intro. The poem Mother to Son, written by Langston Hughes, uses the device of, so this is my topic sentence, right? This is my central idea right here. Uses the device of metaphor to develop a theme in his poem. So the metaphor that he uses is that of da da da, right? And this metaphor develops the theme of la la la, love, hard work, maternal or motherly love. I don't know. I haven't read the poem, to be honest. So this is how I started. Okay, so I set up my central idea, and then from there you talk more about, I'm going to talk more about what metaphor is. All right. Talk about the specific metaphor or metaphors in the text. All right. So this could all be one paragraph right there. And you can make another paragraph, right? I'm not telling you have to do 2, 3, 4, or 5 paragraphs. There's some teachers that say you have to have 5 paragraphs for everything. My feeling is that as long as you answer the question and you also meet the requirements of the rubric, it doesn't really matter how many paragraphs you have. It does have to have a clear beginning, middle, and end. Okay? So, you know, I'm just going to make the decision that I'm going to talk about metaphor in one paragraph. And then I'm going to talk about what theme is. Talk about what theme or themes I find in the text. And then in this, I'd probably put a third paragraph. Then put metaphor and theme together. Talk about how they interact in the poem. You be sure to use evidence and quotes from the poem. And that is that. Now at the conclusion, what do you do? All you need to do is just summarize or restate what you said in your topic sentence in the introduction, right? Langston Hughes does a wonderful job of showing how metaphor can work very well with developing themes. He showed this in his poem, Mother to Son, when this happened, blah, blah, blah. So 4 sentences, maybe, just a nice wrap up of things. Oh, I also have reminders. I forgot about these. So, did I use transitions? Okay, what are good transitions? Look, let's pretend I don't know what good transitions are, right? So you probably forgot. So what do? You go to Google. I do not mind if you go to Google. Remember, in my class, if you do Google something, you do not copy and paste it. You put it in your own words. I don't mind you using Google, but you can't plagiarize Google. Plagiarize means you just take someone else's words. Take their words, but put them in your own words, right? So if we don't know what transition words are, I'm going to go to Google and say, good transition words for essays. Look at that. All right, make sure you're also checking the website to make sure it's a good one. Usually the ones that are .edu, .edu, .org, .edu, those are usually good places, right? EDU means this website is part of an educational institution like a university. This first one is Purdue University, which has a very good, a very well-known writing lab. So if you do come across Purdue, I would recommend that. This one is from the Writing Center at UNC. Maybe that means the University of North Carolina. All right. This one is from an organization. .org means organization. So this organization is called Smart Words. This one's the University of Richmond, the University of Wisconsin. Yeah, so usually if it's from a university source or from an organization, it's a good source to have or to go to. But Purdue is usually good for writing. Okay? So here are some good transitional words. Okay? To add, to compare. And then oh, sorry. This is the how you the type how you would use it, and this is the word that you would use. Okay, all right. If you want to add something, you say again. I would like to say that blah 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 is this because of that. Or if I wanted to compare something, I could transition by saying, on the other hand, metaphors in informational texts don't really work as well because they don't. If I wanted to prove something, one of the transitional words I can say is, obviously, I am an awesome student because I am taking the time to watch Mr. Alas ramble on late at night about informational text. All right. So yeah, and if you like the website, what do you do on Chromebook? Let me just double check how to. Oh, I do know how to do it. On Chromebook, all you need to do, if you wanted to save something, is bring your mouse up to the Omnibox, which is where you type things, all the way to the right. At the end of the Omnibox, there is a star. You click that star, and then pick where you want this bookmark to go. So I'll click on more, and oh, I've already created a writing folder. But if I didn't have a writing folder, I would click on new folder down here and just create a writing folder. So I'm going to star it again, and I'm going to click this down arrow. And since I already made a writing folder, I'm going to click on writing and click done. So if I've ever needed to find it, click on this burger thing. I guess they call it a burger thing. I don't know why. It's 3 dots. Click on that. Click on bookmarks. And where is it? Writing is right there. And all of my writing bookmarks are here. Okay. I even have a bookmark for bouncy balls, which is something that I use in class. When it gets too loud, the bouncy balls get really bouncy. All right, I'm getting off on a tangent. All right, did I use transitions? Yes. I didn't know what they were, but I found out what they were. All right, so I used them. I checked to see if my language was specific. All right, did I write correctly? Did I figure out, did I decide who my audience was? And did I use the right words for them? Did I have a clear purpose? And did I have good style? Right? Did I develop the response that is appropriate for the intended audience? Again, these things, the reminders, the conclusion, the body, the intro, I pulled it off right from right here. This is the rubric that you will be graded on for informational texts on the state test. Okay? Guess what you have to do when you edit your document? You're going to take away these guideposts, right? Because you don't want to, like, it's pretty amateur to have an essay that says intro, body, conclusion, right? Essays don't have those. They will have them only when you're preparing the essay. Okay, I would take out the reminders. I would delete that. Okay, but let me put this back in so I can come back to this with other students if they have more questions. Body, yada 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 yada. Conclusion. All right, that is that. So now I click submit revision. Am I ready to submit it? Yes. Okay, ignore this because this is not my first time. This is not my first revision, so other people have left comments for me already. So ignore that. So if it's your first revision, you won't see this. But you will see self-review now. So yes, click on, Yes, click on that. And it will bring you to a blank tab on the side. And let's go through it. Did I introduce a topic that is clearly developed? Almost. Okay, I can add a comment. Did I develop the main points by including facts, definitions, details, quotations, blah, blah, blah? So I think I did that in the body, right? It makes, there's an order, there's a sequence in my body. So first I talk about metaphor in general, then I talk about metaphor in the text, then I talk about theme in general, and I talk about theme in the text, then I put them all together. So there's there's an order and a flow to my text. So yes, I'll give myself 3 because I'm humble. Add comment if I wanted to. Good transitions, 4 stars, because guess what? We used our friend Google. All right. It's okay to use Google now, but as you're using Google, make sure you're remembering the things that you're looking up or write them down in your notebook. All right. You will not have Google for your test, but hopefully you will come to the test with having done a bunch of practice and taken notes and memorized those things, or you've gotten really good at using context clues to figure things out. All right. Number 4, did I use language specific to my topic, audience, and purpose? I'll say 2 because I actually didn't really think about who my audience was. I didn't really think. Well, no, I did decide that my purpose was to give information because this is an informational response to an informational prompt based on a narrative text. Did I develop a response appropriate to intended audience? No, because I'll put 1 because I didn't decide who my audience was. Did I include a concluding statement? Yes. Blah, blah, blah. Again, you won't see this if this is your first draft, right? Again, you only see this because this is my second draft. And I have to click something. So the review or the comment or the feedback was that I'd like to have an explanation of what my topic is actually about. So remember, my first draft just said la 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 la, right? So this second draft actually does explain what my topic is about. So I'm going to put a smiley, oh no, a smiley face. Sorry. And then submit. And that is that. Okay. Really quickly, this assignment is under Informational Writing Boot Camp. 503, homework informational. You can go on Writable through clicking on this link, or if that doesn't work, just log into writable.com directly. Here's your ed puzzle if you need reminders on how to break down a prompt and make a T-chart. And I think I posted something. I can't remember where I posted it. Did I even post it yet? One second. I thought I posted it. I did post it. Okay, it's right under it. So right under it is 0505 help. Metaphors and themes. So if you need a refresher on metaphors, there's a 2-minute video right here. Okay, take notes. Take note. I don't say take notes just to be a pain in the butt, right? When you take notes, there's a link to your memory, right? It's called muscle memory. So when you're writing something down, you have a better chance of remembering it. It's actually even better than if you were to write or type something down. Like I'm a very fast typer, but sometimes I stop myself and I write things down in a notebook because when I type really fast, I don't retain the information. So make sure you write things down and be consistent with that. Okay, so help, metaphors, and themes. Themes, there's a 1-minute video right there. Watch it. Watch those things until you understand. Or go to YouTube. Remember, I'm trying to get you guys to be independent and proactive and think for yourselves. Go to YouTube and search for another metaphor video that you think might be better for you. Okay? These are just suggestions. So what we just did, and thank you all for sticking with me, was walk through the informational prompt, mother to son. This is homework that is due on Sunday. Okay, we started by deconstructing the prompt, right? We circled, whoa, why does that look like that? Excuse me. What? Oh, I know, okay. Excuse me, let me figure this out. There we go. Okay, we read the prompt at least 2 times. We annotated by circling the verbs and underlining the what's. And then we made a T-chart. Look at our beautiful T-chart, right? Then we read the passage. We read the poem a couple times until we understood it, or at least thought we understood it. We looked for metaphors and themes, right? Because those are what the text, those are things that the passage, or no, those are things that the prompt asks us to look for, right? Okay. We use the guiding rubric on the right to build an outline or a skeleton for our prompt. And then we also went back to the T-chart to make sure that we answered all the parts of the prompt, right? So did I explain how the literary device of metaphor helps develop a theme in the poem? Let's pretend I did in my body, okay? Did I use reasoning and key details? Yes, I made sure to find things that were relevant to my statements, okay? I also used quotes directly from the poem. And did I support my analysis, right? All this last one is really saying, because it's kind of the same thing. When you're using reasoning and key details, you're supporting yourself. The important thing about support analysis is that this word analysis tells you that it is an informational prompt. So your goal, your purpose as the author of this response to the prompt is to give information. All right, that's that. So this is your homework. Again, it's due Sunday. It is hard, so I expect you to have to do some extra research outside on theme and on metaphor. But at least the text is short, and now if you've watched this, we've broken down the prompt together. All right, stay tuned. I'm going to do one on narrative writing, and I'm also going to do some videos on peer review. All right, thanks for watching.